Hi everyone, welcome to This Value. So today we're looking at Humacyte, and they finally come out with a reply to a New York Times article, which we were kind of like wondering where was the reply, but apparently during their capital raising they were trying to just focus on that, and they weren't able to make too much comments because during a capital raising, if you make any release anything with sensitive details, you may interrupt the capital raising, so hence why they had to wait until afterwards. And now that capital raising is finished, they're free to make any statement they want, and basically it just includes their encounter with Dr. Lee, who is the FDA officer mentioned in the New York Times article. So Dr. Lee was actually a consultant on file, and he raised his concerns, and when he raised his concerns, FDA, they had a formal team. So it's not to be confused that Dr. Lee was actually part of the team. He was just a consultant to the team, so it was actually up to the FDA team to decide this matter, and they could have brought it to an advisory committee. Humacyte was okay for them to bring it to an advisory committee. The committee chose, the FDA group in charge of it chose not to, and then they just asked 3 experienced vascular surgeons outside the FDA, which I suspect one of them was Dr. Rishi Kundi, who I made a video on yesterday, who came out kind of backing Humacyte, because he did in a previous kind of presentation with Humacyte mentioned that if they did talk to him, and this sounds like that he was one of those 3 experienced vascular surgeons that was questioned, and he has a really positive experience. And I think after talking to him and 2 other vascular surgeons, I think FDA was pretty pleased and they just approved it, rather than, go to an advisory committee. So the fact that it didn't go to an advisory committee means the FDA wasn't actually that concerned to that extent. So you just have Dr. Lee, who thinks in a different way, and he's just taken things to, like he's just gone off and just talked to the press, and in the journalism, apparently from Humacyte's kind of perspective, was not great either, which they do go on to talk about as well. So apparently it was this review that because of Dr. Lee's objection, which kind of caused the delay for the approval back in August the 10th. You remember August the 10th. Judging by this, it sounds like Humacyte sort of did know that there was a review that was going to be done. So I think they sort of knew what was going on, but I don't know if they could say or not, because I guess telling the public what's going on, especially shareholders, what's going on, might be quite sensitive, because at the time they said FDA needed more time and they didn't know the reason, but it turns out they did know the reason, but possibly they couldn't kind of tell shareholders that was the reason. So that one's quite a grey area in terms of if Humacyte was actually able to tell us back in August that this was the reason that there was a big delay. So you can thank Dr. Lee for a reason why we had to wait so long, back in from August to basically to start to December, when things were approved. It was because of his objections. So this does go on as well. So what they also say is, what is troubling is that the Times relied on a single source for the majority of its reporting in the story, Dr. Lee, who was not part of the formal review team for Symvess at the FDA. And it goes on, Lee has since left the government and has co-founded a consulting firm focused on helping companies obtain medical device approvals. So, in a sense, him talking about this to the press possibly might just be his way of getting more attention for his current company so he can get more clients. It's basically cheap marketing. Despite reporting that he left the FDA in protests over the agency's decision, Dr. Lee actually resigned in late December, long before the FDA made the decision to approve Symvess. So I mean, you can read into it how you like. So as they further go on, other substances of the New York Times coverage also leaves much to be desired. The reader is told that ruptures of synthetic grass made from highly fluorinated plastic materials such as Teflon are unheard of. So any trauma or vascular surgeon who has treated a ruptured Gore-Tex graft will tell you this is untrue. So even just facts like that, that's the problem with journalism as well. They're writing on topics that they don't have the extreme expertise on, and actually it can actually paint quite a distorted picture, and they do it to make them sound better and to make the article seem more convincing when it may not be true. So hence, this article's been, one big hit piece, which I don't know if it's coincided with the capital raising, because potentially the capital raising company knows that basically if Humacyte's raising capital, they can't say anything because they're in a quiet phase, and they can just get an article out for a New York Times with someone that's credible, and then basically shoot the share price down. So potentially that may have been the way. You can definitely read more into it. It also goes on to dispute the Ukraine kind of incidents, because the article was like, shrapnel wounds are not devastating, but in reality they are devastating. This article kind of just writes how they want, whatever way would favor their article. So I think definitely take a read of the Humacyte's reply. It's basically as you would expect, just them just rebutting all the different things that were mentioned. They don't rebuttal everything. They just because they find there's a lot to kind of talk about. But they're with this stance that there was nothing wrong, and basically you've got Dr. Lee who's just rung rogue and talked to the press, and whereas he was just a consultant and he was actually not part of the formal team, and the formal team actually made the decision to approve it. So here's that's the kind of problem as well, because you have this consultant that thinks he knows better versus the formal FDA team. So I think that's the big difference here, and also why it was approved as well, and the fact that it didn't go to advisory committee means the team was convinced enough that the data was good enough that they didn't actually need to have an advisory committee. In order to protect themselves, they did consult some independent vascular surgeons, and I think they found that was enough to just close the case and give it an approval. So I think Humacyte's given a good reply. I think it answers the questions that I had, especially that article. That article looked really, really wrong. It was very biased. It tried to kind of paint a picture in a way using some of the stats, and then just make Humacyte look very bad when some of it's not actually that accurate. So I think that gives a lot of people more confidence. So it's good. New York Times, it's usually just lay people kind of reading it, so it's quite a difference to say hospitals when actually medically educated people read the article. They'll find all the problems that's wrong with it. So I don't think in a sense that the article affects their sales then. And I guess after the reply came out, market was pretty happy. after hours is up close to 4%. Not massive numbers, but it looks like the market kind of like the response. Yeah, so until then, let me know if you've got any questions or comments. Until then, good luck investing, everyone. And yes, we've also got the quarterly very soon, and I'll do a video on that once that comes out. Okay, bye.